The next question is also another Veritas Alpha question. This comes from Mahendra. Mahendra asks, regarding the data source of Veritas Alpha, how does the tool ensure it's consuming the correct inputs and not information from another blogger or YouTube post?
Yes, we have gone through great lengths to ensure the reliability of the data and reports. And that doesn't mean that there are no hallucinations or no errors. In fact, we find that like 1 out of 10 reports can just even skip a section that it's supposed to include. And we anticipate that as these LLMs improve, and they're improving all the time, it's a highly competitive market. You can maybe some of you are seeing what's happening between OpenAI with ChatGPT and Gemini versus Claude versus all of the other tools that are available. They are all neck and neck trying to get better and more results. So ChatGPT 5.0, ChatGPT 5 was just released. So how should I start? Let me start with this. We have started internal metadata flagging system so that we know which data sets are part of our tier 1, tier 2, tier 3 inputs. So as a equity analyst, part of the job is to consume just an enormous amount of data and not overlook anything, but also the human judgment has to determine its own reliability. So how does a human judge whether or not a Twitter post is reliable or accurate? That's sort of what we're trying to understand. And so what we do is in our tier 1, by the way, to generate one of these reports, there are thousands of pages consumed. So in tier 1, we're going and looking at 10Ks, 10Qs, earnings transcripts, and oftentimes for many years. So, you might have, there's actually a references page beyond the valuation section in each report. And you'll see that probably around page 50. And what it will show you is that it has consumed, say, 12 10Qs, 5 10Ks, 15 earnings call transcripts, fundamental data from Yahoo Finance, financial modeling, prep, et cetera, et cetera. That type of hard data we classify as tier 1 data. We assume that it's reliable and correct. It's publicly recorded data by the company, and it's in places. It's coming directly from the SEC. So we are going right to the SEC through their API. So we're not working around trying to scrape and this kind of stuff. We are actually going through the APIs of these different systems and consuming the highest quality data we can find. And so that data we call and classify as tier 1 data. Now, what's tier 2 data? Tier 2 data for us is like an additional analyst report and even our last analyst report. So I find this, George and Yankun and I have been strategizing on this for some time. How do we eliminate hallucinations and get the most accurate reports we possibly can? What we've decided is that we can round robin our LLMs because we could run them on all the LLMs. At some point, we'll set up a pro and tier version and probably charge quite a bit, $10,000 a month or something for these reports. But the basics are that if you have one LLM producing a report and then you switch it over to Gemini, let's say you have ChatGPT and then you have Gemini produce the report. If you feed in your example report from ChatGPT, it very quickly pulls out all of the errors and mistakes, identifies them for us. So basically what we're doing is we're archiving every report that anyone orders. So you get the report and then it also sits in our AWS cloud. And once that's sitting in the AWS cloud, the next quarter we round robin and switch the LLM. So right now we're using Gemini to produce these reports. Last quarter we were using ChatGPT. But the Gemini reports are taking the last ChatGPT reports. That is a tier 2 report. Okay, there are potential mistakes in that report. And that report then gets refined and corrected. And Tamana has done some incredible analysis comparing our ChatGPT versus ChatGPT plus Gemini and has found drastic improvements. It doesn't mean that Gemini would do better without the report. It means that with the incoming tier 2 analysis, Gemini can improve on the analysis. So each quarter, these reports will be better and better. And they're compounding. I mean, after a year of this, I think we will essentially eliminate the mistakes and we will have everything up to date. Mistakes being things like the report might start talking about Q2 2025, and then in a new section on a new page, say in the SWOT analysis, it'll just put a data point from like 2022 that doesn't really make a lot of sense. If you were a real analyst, it just kind of jumps back a couple of years. That kind of stuff is going to go away. When we first were making these reports, by the way, it could hardly do math. You might remember it couldn't count R's in strawberry, like all this sort of stuff. We just kept pushing forward because we knew the LLM models were going to catch up. We know, I am very confident that large language model and the AGI that is on the horizon will be dominant to human analysis. I'm very confident. There's no way that a human can consume this amount of information and take as comprehensive a look at everything as our AI system can, and pretty soon as any AI system probably can. And so as I see this coming on the horizon, and it's like very soon, 6 months, 9 months, I think very soon you won't want to trust an advisor or a fund manager who's not using AI. AI will provide the guardrails, just like people are right now probably fearful about what happens with autonomous vehicles and driving. I think in the long term, go out 10 years, you'll be scared of the human behind the wheel versus an AI behind the wheel. So we are so tier 3 inputs start to become social media posts from regular, perhaps retail investors. So how do you determine, and by the way, we've also incorporated a comments post, because what we need to do is have positive feedback or positive feedback loops or any feedback loops inside the reports. I can't possibly scrutinize 6,500 of these reports, but our users can. So if you go in and order a report and find a problem, you can actually write a comment and assign it to that report. That report gets stored, and that becomes a tier 3 question, an input for the next LLM creating the next analyst report. So that input that you write will be considered by the LLM and potentially included in the next report. So I'll give you one last example. I'm sorry to keep going here, checking the time. I had this interaction with Stephen Michael Jones, CEO of Daily Journal. That was, somewhat amusing. I wouldn't say it's embarrassing, but unfortunately it wasn't successful. I was showing off our Veritas Alpha page, and I said, order a company. And so of course he orders Daily Journal. It's often what people do. Management tend to order their own companies, and then they order their competitors. I've actually talked to some private business owners about it, who then order their public business competitors and get great insights into what their competition is doing. So there's many uses for this analysis. When Stephen ordered the report, of course, he received the Daily Journal report, and it took 20 minutes. We were no longer at the time together, and he emailed me later and said something like, nice tool. I didn't really get it right. And so I went and checked the Daily Journal report, and it's all about the traditional newspaper business. It totally misses the software aspect. So we need, and that's part of the reason that we found this company. It's people, and even the LLM doesn't realize that the powerful engine underlying Daily Journal is Journal Technologies. So even the LLM missed it. And so we need a way to feed some pieces of information to help the LLM get the traction it deserves. So that becomes like a tier 3 resource. We store those pages in AWS. We'll store your comments to the reports in AWS. And ultimately, I believe these reports will become the standard. I mean, we can't do it in any other way at this point. And we're really pushing the limits. It seems very promising. But let us know if you have solutions to these challenges.
Well, and Matt, just a really quick follow-up from Amit regarding this. So are you just using Google Gemini and OpenAI's ChatGPT, or are there any intentions on using Anthropic's Claude or Grok to generate reports too?
Yes, absolutely. We're deciding whether on October 1st, we're going to switch to either the Anthropic, we always use the pro versions and we're using the reasoning versions and things of that nature. So Sonnet Opus 4, I think, is the latest Anthropic version, although I know the team here just did an AI class, maybe someone could tell me. But I think Anthropic's latest Opus version, and now they have their finance capability. So that is something we will try to switch to the best tool at the time. So we'll either go to Anthropic, and we've also discussed Grok. So those two are kind of lead contenders for the next round robin model. And then we will feed in this ChatGPT report from Q2. We will feed in the ChatGPT or the Gemini report from Q3. And then we will have Anthropic or Grok create the report for Q4. And we will then probably end up back with ChatGPT 5 in January. And we will continue to move these models around. And if we ever, when really, I mean, ultimately, we'll ultimately put logins. Our partners are going to have access for free, but we should have some institutional interest. And when we get to that level, we'll probably have the capability of running multiple reports on multiple LLMs simultaneously and then building up from there. And Amit, I'll tell you, I mean, we have so many plans, but you can imagine, I'll just help you all also, everyone on the call. We have, first of all, you can run a whole industry, which is amazing. And ultimately, once the industries are run and everything's stored in AWS, we will be able to build cross-industry analysis. And then we can also compare across the industry. So we're just going to be able to do everything. That was so impossible. The scale is so large. And imagine we could do it in India, or imagine we could do it in Japan. We don't even need to speak Japanese. We can go in there, we can read any report in any language in 20 minutes. We can have it in any language we want. And we can look across all the industries. We can find the cheapest industry, the fastest growing industry, and then we can find the company within that industry we want to own. So this is like an incredible tool. And the way that I often like to use it is I generate a few reports that are of interest at that moment. And then I put them into my own LLM, my own favorite LLM. So you can just upload them. I don't have any problem. Like you're going to get a link, just download them. Then you upload them to your ChatGPT. And if you sit there and you say, okay, here's Nike, here's Lululemon, here's Under Armour, it's going to tell you Lululemon's the cheapest. That's just what it's going to do. So you can just start asking questions, and it's like you're talking to a bunch of senior analysts who have studied the systems. And without the reports and data right there, you'll get too many hallucinations. So uploading that report is helpful. So you order the report, upload it to your LLM, start asking questions, and you'll get some really refined, great answers.